Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Chris Garris, and welcome to the Transporter Room. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Rachel Amber Bloom. Rachel is one of the hosts of the popular YouTube channel tex-trek. Thank you for coming on the show today, Rachel. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Uh, Not too bad. It's, the last week of vacation for me. So, as I think, like you, we have to all go back to the real world next Monday.
I know I have to do something to earn money again. That's rude.
I know. I don't what is that? I don't understand that. It's not fair. Um, I mean, I'm pretty sure the person that won the, Mega Millions on Christmas Eve they got a really good present.
Yeah, I did. Because I remember seeing something before. They're like, everyone suggests remain anonymous.
Oh, absolutely.
Do not tell people.
Now, I agree. Now, there will be signs.
Yeah, I was like, there would be signs of all of a sudden, I just have the nicest uniforms possible.
You'll be going to the studios and being like, "Hey, I need a studio model."
All of a sudden, I'm like bidding on Hollywood memorabilia.
Oh, I know. Did you s I think you probably did. Um, was it the phaser? Oh, or something from the TOS phaser went for, like, almost $1,000,000?
Oh god, I did see that one. I got distracted by the ruby red slippers that were insane. I mean, that pair does have a history, but I was like, I really hope they end up in a museum and not someone's private collection.
I know. Oh, yeah, there it is. Trekmovie.com.
Here's the thing about a random phaser is one thing that I do actually believe that some pieces that are so important to movie history. I was like, no, if I got it, I wouldn't keep it in my house. I would give it to a museum.
Well, yeah. So I just found it on trekmovie.com. The His long lost hero phaser sold for $910,000. And then coming in a close second was Captain Kirk's communicator. It sold for a record $780,000. So 1.7 million.
Never had that kind of money in my life. Like,
Even I'm sorry, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had that type of money, would I do it? I don't know. I don't think I would, but just to be able to have the idea of doing it.
got that kind of money, was able to purchase those kind of things, they would end up in museums because I actually think that's where stuff like that belongs. So it can be enjoyed by as many people as possible. I'm glad. Well, I'm glad there's a pair of ruby slippers in the Smithsonian and the Hollywood Museum, the Oscars Museum. I don't know actually what that museum is called. There's one in LA that has a pair of ruby slippers.
So how many pairs of the ruby slippers were there made? Do you remember? I don't.
I think there are, if I remember correctly, four surviving.
Wow.
One is in a private collection. One is the one that was just sold. Um, and then two are in museums. There might be more, but I think there were more that were made. They were just
Yeah, I messed up. Or
there is no Tin Man costume because they didn't really save things at that time, so it was melted down to use for something else.
ah, I can believe it because you're right. They did, and that actually can lead us into even to Star Trek because that when they were done with the series or whatever, and that set needed to was they were done, they would destroy that set.
Yeah, they're like, we're done with this. Why would we keep it? or accidentally steals or accidentally steals something from Roddenberry. But
Well, and that's I'm sorry, I said TOS, I meant TNG. That's why they had to completely rebuild the Enterprise D bridge for Picard season 3.
because yeah, none of that stuff was laying around still.
Nope. But I think they actually I think now it's like a permanent spot at Paramount.
I don't know if it's a permanent spot. I think they at least have kept it so if they need it again, they can put it back up. I'm not sure. I'm not actually rich. I can't just wander the Paramount lot.
Yeah, me either. At least not yet. Maybe one of these days. But not now. Not till both of our podcasts become, mil million plus subscribers.
That's yeah, that's definitely gonna happen, right? One of the podcasts I'm on will.
It's gonna happen. We're gonna be positive. We're gonna have those million plus viewers or subscribers and tens of millions of viewers of subscribers and everything and views. Um, Speaking of podcasts, so I know you're because that's how we met was through Text Trek and then through Text Trek. But I know you do some other shows. If I thought you've told me before.
I was in another show at Masks of Mayhem. It was an actual play podcast where we play Mutants and Masterminds third edition. I got the two initials right. Yay. We've been going for about 6 years. Uh haven't quite hit that million subscribers, but it's a lot of fun. I do it with um right now my friends RC and Dan and other friends every have come and gone, and they're always welcome to come back, but sometimes life gets in the way of wanting to do a podcast. Um but yeah, it's a Mutants and Masterminds is a superhero based RPG, so we're using it to tell like a superhero story.
Okay. So I guess so did you do that? So you did that before Text Trek, correct?
Yeah, that was yeah, like 6 years ago, because I met Fathery, which is weird because Father and I both live in Austin. That's as far as I'll go with my location on a podcast. Um, we met like during the pandemic on Twitter because I was on another Star Trek podcast, uh, Discotheque, which I still me and those people might are thinking about doing something else. But then Father was just like reached out, like was like, "Hey, you want to come on my podcast?" And we're also in Texas, and Father and I like, "Wait, we're like live fairly close to each other." And then I was like, "Oh, nerdy IRL friend, I want that." Like,
Well, and so that was how I was searching Patreon. I actually while I was trying to figure out how to do this channel and all this, I just was on I was on Patreon and I was doing like the Star Trek or Trek. And I was going through the lists and I see this Texas shaped logo.
there was kind of yeah, kind of. I was just like, "Oh, look, Texas. Oh, friends now." Like we're friends. It's like that was years ago now, but
Yeah, well, but no, that's exactly how this got started because, nothing wrong. I mean, I support the other podcasts that I support, but I was like, I have to join Text Trek. Period. It's my state.
because I've talked about this before. That I got into the Twitter, the Trek side of Twitter. I'm gonna call it Twitter. I don't care what Elon Musk wants me to call it. Um, I have my slightly controversial what I'll say sometimes, which is if Elon Musk stops dead naming his child, I'll stop dead naming Twitter. Um, for Discovery, because I tweeted about Discovery, and then an official account that exists under a different name now, retweeted that. But then, especially like during the pandemic, I got so much closer to all those people because I was like, I'm so bored. Like,
And I'm surprised, now that you say that, I didn't get into any of this stuff until after the pandemic because I actually was still having to work. Like, I actually had to go into work. Um, yeah, so I didn't get to do that.
I had a job that was at home, and then I had a job I got laid off from. So I got laid off during COVID. It happens to everyone. But I was just very much like, I am bored in my house. Like,
Okay, well, so that's how so y'all basically became Twitter friends, and it worked its way to Text Trek. And actually I'll have Fathery on Wednesday, 2nd. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's Thursday. 2nd's Thursday, right? Yes, the 2nd. Yes, he's coming on, I think, the 2nd, whatever day. Sometime this coming week. And so we'll get to talk about Text Trek and all of his stuff and how that came about.
I don't take his text track was going on for a while before like I was popping on there.
So your main feed initially is the first reaction.
Yeah. So at first it was just father was inviting more and more people onto the main show, and that became like unfeasible with how many people were like regularly coming on because it was like because father edits those shows and just like I think the last is like for Picard, we like Picard season 3, we had like like 5, 6 people on, and it was just a lot for him to edit. And so he was like, "What if we did like a first reaction show?" And like one, also people like want to talk about it right away. And then he was like, "Hey, would you want to host that?" And I was like, "Sure, that sounds fun." I joked that I just like a friend had a Star Trek podcast, and I was like, "I'm taking your audience, thank you." I'm like, "Thanks for that."
Well, no, and it is fun, and I was so thankful that when he started putting out the, on Patreon, well, not Patreon, on the Discord for the Patreon for other people to join the first reactions. And so, luckily, so I hadn't done a first reaction before, but I'm on the seventh rule, and so we do almost sometimes twice a week recordings, but they're just reviews. They're not first reactions of the show. Like we're still doing. We're actually starting season 5 of TNG right now. Like we have a recording tomorrow.
It's interesting because the joke is that the first reaction streams always go a little off the rails, but because we've also occasionally I've watched the episode for the first time like 2 hours before the recording, so like
That was I'll admit that was me. I think the first time I joined on the first reactions because I didn't have time to watch it a whole lot and really dive deep.
they're on Thursdays. I have a full-time job. I usually try to watch them during lunch and then try to watch them. I am often watching it the second time while I'm doing my makeup.
Okay, I get it. Not the makeup part, but yes, I understand. Well, and that's what
I'm also like I'm pale as a ghost, so like if I don't like I just wash out.
be blinding.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like I need. That's when so when we were doing when I started getting on these with you, um, I if I got up early enough, I'd watch it before I went to work just to get an idea of the show. Um, and then luckily by the time I would get home, I still had time before we would hop on if I remembered to do it or I wasn't doing something else. Or I would, like you, I'd come home from lunch and watch it again to see what was going on.
My job is hybrid, so I'm home. I've said like Thursdays are a day I'm home, so I can just watch the episode and not deal with that. There was a second, and we do not need to go. There was a second where my job might be going and 100% fully in office. It lasted like a week. Um, it also involved a snowstorm. It's not a story for the podcast, but it's a story for later. But I had the plan that I was just gonna like bring my iPad to work and like just watch it. Um, my office is uh not close to where I live in Austin. It's in Austin, but not close. And Austin traffic is bad. If I time it wrong and I leave during rush hour from work to get home, it can take me over an hour. And it is in the same city. Like, yeah. I could tell you more specifics, but yeah. It's Austin traffic is bad. So my plan was just to be in the break room with my iPad, just with my headphones. Like
You might as well just leave an hour later or whatever because just yeah, it just drives me at the wall. But yeah, that could go down a whole
my first job out of college was a job that easily could have been a remote job. They insisted on an office downtown. I would occasionally just go to the movies at a the Alamo Draft House. That does not exist anymore. The Ritz. That was one of the ones that closed during the pandemic, just because I was like, I took the bus.
to work.
Yeah. They did not pay for my parking, and they did not pay me enough for the $200 a month parking fee. It was $40 a month for a bus pass and $200 a month to park.
What got you or what led you to Star Trek or sci-fi?
Mainly Star Trek. So I guess my dad. So my dad, sci-fi in general, especially, but my dad had DVDs that I don't even know what DVD set these are. He might still have them. I'm not sure. He probably got rid of them at some point. There were just a couple episodes of the original series episodes per disc. And he didn't seem to have all of them. So I caught those when I was like way younger. But the thing that this would be when I was like middle school, and this is the context that I'm also a military brat. So like this was happening in Japan. I would get home. My brothers are older than me, so they were both in high school. Um, I got home like an hour before them. I think maybe they had sports after school or something. And Spike TV had TNG reruns.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
And I was able to watch like an hour. And sometimes only on Fridays because I had other stuff going on. Sometimes I would watch an hour and then run across the street to Girl Scouts because the Girl Scout leader just happened to live across the street from me. It was convenient. Um, and then it was funny as they often would play Deep Space Nine after that. And Deep Space Nine is now one of my favorite. Deep Space Nine is not a show you can catch a random episode on and have any idea of what's happening.
I would say for sure, probably after they got the you know, the b the Dominion War started.
I
Prior
like
to that, you
the
yeah,
only because I would just catch random ones. The one I really remember catching part of,
yeah.
because when I got to the episode, I was like, "This is what was happening in that episode." Was that one where Kira's stuck in a cave and it turns out to be the female changeling lying to Odo?
I mean, I've seen it.
Oh God, I wish I could remember what that episode's called. That episode, randomly caught that episode. I was like, "What is happening?" TNG being way more episodic, appealed for the I could only watch for an hour because I was a middle schooler who only had control of the remote for an hour. Um, and so that was like my main way into TNG. And then like I would say that it was like always it would be like, yeah, Rachel likes Star Trek, but it was also this was the time between Enterprise probably would have been airing. We didn't have I was living overseas. We didn't have UPN. So I like wasn't watching it. And then it was so that I was just like catching up with Star Trek on my own and then would be like in nerdy spaces that I have a complicated relationship with Harry Potter now, but that would probably be like my main fandom during high school. And then it'd be like, oh, I also really like Star Trek, and occasionally people would be like, me too. And then when Discovery popped back on, when Discovery came on, I like had tweeted about it. Like this is like what I tweeted. I've been a Star Trek fan for a decade, and this is the first time I'm able to watch a show live.
I I'm almost there with you because, um, if I remember correctly, and this is what I've said before, the only series that I was able to watch when it was broadcast was TNG because of well, you lived in another country. I just lived in a smaller market. And so our Corpus Christi market didn't get everything.
Yeah, of course, the Corpus Christi did not get UPN. That does not shock me.
And that was the thing. So story on how I finally got UPN and then the WB was when I finally got satellite, Dish Network and DirecTV. Since we did not have either of those affiliates here and didn't live close enough to pick it up all over the air from another town like San Antonio or whatever, um, I was able to get I'd get a waiver so I could get the New York and LA
Oh,
feeds.
nice.
So that was how I got to watch Enterprise. So of all of the series, the only ones I actually got to watch when it would release was TNG. Everything else was later. Most of it was streaming. Like I did not get to watch DS9 until it was on Netflix.
Say I watched Deep Space Nine on Netflix. That's
Yeah,
which I think actually helped me because I think Deep Space Nine of the older Star Trek show leaned itself to streaming more than just with like there's a storyline and
yeah.
it's a lot less episodic.
Mhm.
Um, there, it was also like this was like I also like got really into Buffy the Vampire Slayer in high school. It was
Me
still in
too.
Japan. I had gone it like I'd lived in Japan and then moved to Hawaii for a year and like came back. I
Yeah.
moved a lot. Like this might be part of the. I moved 9 times before I started high school.
Before you started high school?
before I
I don't think
started high
I even
school.
knew that. I
Yeah,
knew it was a
like
lot.
I so it comes up if you're telling parts of my life story. Where were you living when that happened? But like I watched all of Buffy because the library had the Buffy DVDs. They didn't have the Angel DVD, so I didn't watch Angel till I was in college and came and because Netflix wasn't in Japan yet when I lived in Japan. It was like me in high school was a very weird thing where it was like the streaming was starting, but it wasn't like accessible yet. And like there was like a thing where like we would have Hulu and then Hulu would be like, "No, you're in another country." I was like, "But I'm not. I'm like on a military base." Like and now you actually can get American Netflix on the base, but um like and it was like not I watched things illegally in high school, a lot of it. I because it was at the time where the internet was caught up. They assumed everyone was streaming it, everyone's watching it right as it aired, except I was in a different country. So like I got spoiled on something on the first season Once Upon a Time, but during my senior year of high school. Something got spoiled because I went on the Wikipedia page for Once Upon a Time, not realizing the episode had aired in the US already. And it got spoiled for like the identity of a character. I guess this aired in like a decade ago. I probably can say August the Pinocchio. Shocking. Um, but that like literally had probably aired like 20 minutes before, and I just wasn't. I was in school. Like,
Shouldn't have been on the internet.
oh, my teacher didn't care. I
Uh-huh.
know what class it was because that teacher did not care. It was like a um like a like movie making class, and like as
Yeah,
long as you got your work done, he was like, I don't care what you're doing on your extra time. Go on
correct.
Wikipedia. Um,
That's funny.
I think it's too late to get that guy in trouble now, right?
Slightly, yes.
I
You're
think he might
good.
still be at the school.
Yeah, you're
I
good,
won't say
and
his name. I think anyone who went to that school could probably guess who it was, but
yeah, well, we're okay. I think it'll be a while before this is found,
yeah.
so I think we're good.
He
Um,
um he actually though, because some of my friends in high school watched Star Trek. At one point, we were having like uh I think we had like a track meet happening at the school, and some people were like watching it, and me and my friends were like talking to him in the classroom instead. And he was like, I don't now that I'm older, like he probably shouldn't have worded this like this, but he was joking. He was like, "Oh, what's in that box?" He said nerd porn, and we're like, "What?" And we like looked, and it was old school TOS VHSs.
oh, nice.
Like you could still see the strings and like, and we're like, "Hell yeah!"
Well, and I've been watching TOS because of, I'm with a Search for Trek, and so we're going through Search for Trek, we're doing what's called Run the Franchise, which is we're watching every episode, everything, and we're still on season 1, and then with, 7th Rule, we do TNG and then, like, 1 TOS.
Watch order is probably seems insane if you ever like went and looked, because like I would like, especially now, like I'm watching like TOS say, and then I'm like, well, I'm just gonna go watch the new stuff that's coming out. Like I'm not gonna wait to get there.
If I'm gonna watch it now, it would be I'm not gonna do it in show release order, I'm gonna do it kinda chronologically, so that would be Enterprise first.
I would say, and a lot of people know that Enterprise is the show I've seen the least of, so I do need to go look. Some of Enterprise is not aged well.
I don't okay. We are going to be we're gonna be getting together and do a watch party of all of Enterprise and review that sucker.
I would say I was a little because I went from Voyager to Enterprise. How Enterprise writes women is has aged less well than Voyager. It
Well,
came up
correct,
before it.
but TOS it was even
Yeah.
harder. That's
Yeah,
like
but
we
at least
just
I think I was prepared
true for
for that
TOS.
because TOS came out in the 60s.
No,
And
you're
like there's
right.
some stuff and I like know history and I understand from a historical standpoint that like
Yeah,
mini skirts were part of the women's lib movement and
true.
were seen as feminine, like was a feminist statement to be wearing a mini skirt. and I
Yeah.
understand that.
And that's
I was alive when Enterprise came out. Like,
correct. Well, and that's like actually we just did a review yesterday. I think it's Friday's Child was TOS, and it's gonna be interesting when that first reaction or our reactions review comes out because the way it's done is we have our free for all, which is everybody gives their review or what they thought about that episode, and then so that part's put out on the YouTube, if, about several weeks later. But then we have just the private for Patreon members only is the things left unsaid, and that's you got to be a Patreon member, and so when we were starting off our review yesterday, the first person's like, "Well, um, I got more stuff to say and things left unsaid," and had a few good comments, and then it got to me, and I was like, yeah, basically what she said. Yeah, it wasn't okay. Didn't really age well." Um,
and I mean, all of them have stuff that haven't aged well. Like,
and so, but then we got to the things left unsaid, and that's when I was like, and I think it was Ciroc, he beat me to it. This when we were talking about this scene with Dr. McCoy, and he slaps a patient, a pregnant woman, and like, and she was slapping him, but I was like, "Oh my god, that's holy wow." So, but yeah, and that's what I like about this whole thing that we do between tex-trek, decon, seventh rule, all of this is that we can actually sit down and talk about, okay, maybe it hasn't aged well, but did we learn from it? And some stuff, yes. And then there's still things we're working on.
there's to some people this is sacrilege, and I do have a doc, which is like such a weird doc because it was made like just for a friend, and then I just keep giving it to more people. And it's a doc, and it's TNG specifically, and it's like episode you might want to skip and why. And the first thing on there is Code of Honor, and others are just more like trigger warnings, like uh violations for instance isn't necessarily a bad episode. However, if you go into violations not knowing what it is, you're like, oh my god, like,
There was another one that we just reviewed recently. It was the host. The first one with we actually meet the Trill.
yeah.
I had not I watched it when it came out originally, and so, I was probably mid-teens-ish, not quite, I was in high school, and I didn't think anything of it, It's like, "Okay, episode done." And even now, when I was watching it for review, I think it was, like, the 3rd time I was watching it, I was sitting there and I was like, "Oh, wait, that's what she's talking about," was when it's at the very end, um, when the new host comes out, and it's a female instead of the male, and Dr. Crusher says, "If it was in another time," or whatever, I can basically, he was alluding to if same-sex relationships. And that was even in the early 90s, that was as far as they could go. They couldn't actually say anything else. And then we get DS9, and then you can start saying more stuff and showing more stuff.
Well, I remember because I went in to the Outcast knowing, well, one, I once heard someone recently describe the Outcast were so worried about making a gay, like about their gay allegory, they accidentally made a trans one.
Yeah.
Uh, but I do warn friends about the Outcast because I remember being so depressed that the ending is like conversion therapy works.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, I hate that. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, it's not like a badly made episode, but it was just like such a
Yeah.
downer. Like,
Yeah.
so like especially like friends I've given that list who were like trans, and I'm like, hey, this is like the end of the episode. This is what's implied. Protect your peace as you're going and watching it. Like, you can skip this if you need to.
Well, and there was an episode of Enterprise, that I didn't I didn't, and I like Enterprise, and, it's Cogenitor, and it's not that I didn't like the episode, like, per se, the feelings behind it. I was just getting mad at Trip because he was again, we didn't have prime directives and all that stuff, and he's trying to, right, you know, teach this person who, but he's interfering with their race and the way they do this. This is their society, and the whole time I'm like, oh my god, Captain Archer is struggling. He is trying to have a great, and he's actually having a great first contact, and he comes back to what he did. Um, but now I under I understand why that episode got written, and it was because of Connor Trenier. He actually, I don't know if it was on Decon or talking to him in person. He said that by that point in the show, they really hadn't had a kind of a serious trip episode with Henry, and so he actually wanted it something like that, where he kinda got in trouble or whatever, and but yeah, so when I learned that I was like, "Okay, now it's not quite as bad." I still was just like, "Ugh, you're making your captain's job harder."
I think my least oh god, my least favorite episode of Star Trek is like is I think it's He Without Sin, or as I like to call it, Worf has a backstory, so he ruins everyone's vacation.
Oh, so that's the one when they go to,
They go to
Risa.
Risa and he joins a terrorist cell.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Yeah. Um Also the one where Alexander Siddig should have been with his wife and child instead of filming an episode of TV. Um uh but I was like, Worf is a stick in the mud. He's not this much of a stick in the like
No, he's not. They really did go over.
no, but I'm going to travel soon, which you know. But one of the people I'm gonna see, they were recently in England because they're a married couple. One of them is English. They were home visiting family, and I bought them. I ordered some stuff from the Taskmaster website to send to them in June when they were back in England because when I looked at the shipping for the Taskmaster website to the US, it was bad. Like I was going to order $70 worth of things.
Uh-huh.
I How much would you guess the shipping is?
I'm gonna say $70 worth of items, probably about $100.
It was less than that. It was like 50.
That's still crazy because
Yeah, crazy. But I really wanted that board game. My friend has been holding that since June. They live in
okay.
a different I can't just like drive there. So like but one of the things, if you see me at a con, one of the things I picked up is I got the card game version of it because and the normal board game because I was like, oh, the card game version's perfect for cons because I just throw it in my bag. So if you see me at a con sometime this year, I might make you play Taskmaster with me.
And actually now, that's a good one. That's a good segue into cons. So, my first one, well, you met me at my first con, which was
Yeah,
Space Con in San Antonio in October. So that was my first, and then Trek to Dallas was my second, but I have a feeling you've probably done maybe 1 or 2 more than that. I don't
yeah, a
know.
little more. My first like Star Trek specific con was only last year, which is Vegas.
Oh, okay, that's right, you go to STLV.
Yeah, I've only gone once.
Yeah,
I discovered the FOMO's so much worse now after I've gone once.
that's funny that you say that. I had someone else say Matt Borman, we were talking one night, and he told me the exact he said he said, "You're gonna go, and then when you get home, you're just gonna be kinda depressed."
Yeah. Oh god, I didn't even have time to be depressed until I got back from STLV last year because I immediately had to get to back to work.
Well, that helped.
It did not help my tiredness. I My flight got delayed a little. I didn't get home till like
Ooh.
2 in the morning,
Oh my
and
god.
I
It had to
had to
be at
train
work?
someone. Luckily remotely, and luckily I got to control when this was. a different trip. I had gone to New York for a friend's wedding. I luckily got in the middle of the day, but had gotten sick. We all got sick at this wedding. We all picked up a cold, and had to train someone in a different country. So I had to train in the morning because
Yeah, time change, time zones.
time zones. I was so out of it. It was also a thing where they someone would have been like, by the way, this person's starting. I was like, well, I'm gonna be in New York when the person's starting. Like, I was like, maybe you should look at my calendar.
Mhm. So STLV was your first convention.
My first Star Trek
Star
convention.
Trek convention.
I've been to some around the air. Like there's a lot of anime conventions in Dallas and like in Texas, and I've gone to Acon a couple times. Um, and I've gone. This isn't really a convent. There's like also a TV festival called ATX Television Festival that happens in Austin, and I've gone to that a couple times. That wouldn't necessarily encourage like cosplay. You're also in the middle of downtown Austin, and it's summer, so like too hot, and you're like moving between multiple. That is the one they did like a Gilmore Girls reunion a couple years before like the like revival. I got to go to that. That was cool. They did like the
Lucky.
West Wing the next year, like
Oh,
Ugly
that
Betty.
sounds kinda fun.
So yeah, I would say the cons is, and then I think it was like what happened is it got more into like I want to start doing cons again, bored over the pandemic. I know I did a lot of like virtual conventions over the pandemic too, and so that was like, this is fun. I want more. And yeah, that's the problem after you're like you start going to more. You're like, oh no, I forgot that's fun. Like,
I know, and I'm already getting a hard time from people who other groups are like, "You're going to STLV, right?" I'm like, "No, can't go in 2025. Just work's not gonna make it happen."
no, you have to go. Like, though, what happened this year is it didn't end up being the STLV was my nephew's due date. Like that weekend, and I was like, I'm gonna regret it if he ended up coming that weekend. He ended up coming before that, but that time it was too hard to like. But I was like, I'm gonna regret it if he comes and I'm in Vegas. Like, well, especially because I'm like the family member that lives closest to them. So like,
Okay.
if something like happens and they like need help,
Yeah.
I would feel
Okay.
bad if like they have to call people who live farther away because I'm like getting drunk in Vegas. Like,
Okay, I get it. Yeah. Well, my plan is 2026 now.
I'm like, man, I'm hopefully 2026 too, but I'm gonna try this year. I didn't do it last year, so let's save some money.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do STLV. My goal is 2026, which is even be better because 'cause it'll be the 60th anniversary of Star Trek. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be a big it's
Oh my god.
not that they're already big, it's gonna
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna outdo that. I mean, but they'll do
It'll be
something for 60th.
interesting to see like if they end up trying to do like the official convention again.
Mm? Oh, what yeah. Well, it'll still be I think it'd be Creation will do it.
Well, no, because Creation had an official one, and then what FCLV was official, it's not official anymore. So I don't know, which is why officially they do not say Star Trek Las Vegas. It just says STLV. What does it stand for? Shh, don't think about it. Um, and then it says like they'll say something like Trek to Dallas or like um which I guess is like interesting because also now you can have like there were like Galaxy Quest people at them or like Orville actors, and I don't think if it was an official Star Trek convention they could have that.
I don't know. I really don't know, but you're right. I remember just seeing some other franchises there, even at Trek to Dallas, but not many, obviously. Um, but we had that, but then you have SpaceCon, which is basically just it's not Comic Con, but it's SpaceCon, which had all of them.
It was just like if they went to space fictionally, they can come here. Because I was staring at Josh Brolin, a picture of Josh Brolin. I went, Thanos. We're just saying Thanos, right? That's the only time we went to space, right? We're like, okay, yeah, sure. I would say like I was only there for a day, so none of the, like, Star Wars people seem to be there yet.
No, so and that was how they designed that one. It was all the Star Trek people were mainly Friday, which is the day that I went I was
The day we ran into each other.
the way we all ran into each other and met for the first time, and I met Fathery, and I not gonna call him by his first name because that just feels weird.
I think I said, like, I did once. Oh, I think we were doing interviews. Someone else called him Steven. I called him Steven and went, eh. Like,
Yeah, I'm already sitting here thinking like, what am I gonna call him when I introduce him? I'm gonna have to be Fathery. It will not be Steven. Like, no, he's Fathery.
this is like if you ever meet like him in person, he'll go, "I'm Stephen Fathery." Everyone calls me Fathery. That's how he introduces himself. Like,
And yeah, and you actually told me that one night on one of the first reactions. Well, before the show started or after the show started, we were talking about that. Um, but yeah, no, it was fun. I enjoyed. I can say now, having gone to two, um, I can say if the next time I go to like a creation event, which I really, really, really hope they come back to Texas with Trek. I don't know if it'll be in Dallas.
I haven't seen anything officially announced for them yet, and I'm like, please.
I I know I keep on poking at one of the guys that works for creation, and I'm like, "Hey, trek to Austin."
Oh, it's so easy. Oh my god, I wouldn't have to get a hotel. Oh, just drive.
And I would stay at my family. I'd probably just stay at my no, I'd get a hotel because I want to hang out with all the talent. With
I will say I don't live close to downtown.
yeah, well, and that's what I was going to say in comparing SpaceCon and creation events and Trek to Dallas. I mean, don't know, SpaceCon, awesome, fun. It was a great experience for my first time. But what I prefer about like the Trek to Dallas and the creation ones is that since it's at the hotel, you're all kind of self-contained with all of the talent. And so you literally will run into them in the bar,
Oh no, you would run in.
in the
I shouldn't tell that
elevators.
story. I shouldn't tell that story recorded.
Yeah.
I will say I saw a Star Trek actor leaving somewhere in Vegas so drunk.
Well, and that's what I like. I didn't get to I saw like, for example, I saw Tawny Newsome sitting in the bar, but I didn't go talk to her because I didn't wanna, interrupt her, but and that and even though I didn't talk to him, but I'm like, I was okay, I'm sitting there, saw Tawny, I saw Doug,
You met my friend Kristen at
yes,
there.
your other entourage.
Yeah, the odd. I guess to retell that story. It's so weird. Vegas is like this. I don't maybe to a lesser extent than Dallas was. She was like the actors are just walking around. Like she just looked up and it was like Doug Jones just walking through a lobby. The only person I remember I saw Brent Spiner walking with a handler. And I didn't even think he might not have been like, "You need to stay by me." I think he was just talk. He might have just been talking to
Well, they
her,
may just
and
be
they were,
moving to another spot too or
yeah, they might have
something.
just been walking and talking. Like,
Yeah.
whereas at other conventions, like if you see LeVar Burton is with his handler, like because for safety. Like I'm not disparaging that, but like that people feel comfortable. I mean, Von Armstrong just walked up to me, like to that weird story. I see we heard about the Dr. Pepper thing, right?
Mm, I don't know, we can tell that another time, I guess. I don't think so, I've
Yeah,
heard that.
that was
Yeah.
I couldn't find Dr. Pepper in Vegas as I was taking a picture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Now I know. I remember.
I this story is on my TikTok somewhere.
Yeah, we'll go find it there.
Go catch it before TikTok disappears.
Yes.
If it does, I don't know.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
But like
so
it's just very chill and
it is. And I think
like
that's
walking
they
around
like
Vegas.
that.
Yeah, walking around Vegas at one point, walking with one of my Trek Talk friends, and we just walk past uh Stashwick.
Todd Stashwick.
Tosh Stashwick. I
Todd
mean went Jason, and that is not right. Tosh Stashwick. And Tosh Stashwick just would hey buddy, like tap on my friend's shoulder, and we just like walked past, played it cool as soon as Tosh Stashwick. We were like, oh my god.
He touched my shoulder. He
Yeah, as
touched my
soon as he was
shoulder.
out of like shot, like couldn't hear us anymore. We're like, what the just happened? Like And this was like months after Picard season 3 aired, so we were like, "Oh my god!" Like, but we were just like walking through the casino, and like he knew we were Star Trek people because we were like in cosplay, but like we were just because there'd just be times I would like look up, do the polite smile as you're passing someone, and be like, "Oh shit, that's Marina Sirtis." Like,
Well, I remember doing that in, San Antonio, and, was sitting down, and, waiting for, a line to get started, or for someone to show up to do signatures, and I was just sitting there, and I had talked before I went to this, I talked to, Stephanie Kay. She's the host of the NX7062 podcast, and she does the booths and what that, like, at creation events, and she was giving me, like, the 101 on conventions, and not that you can't just say, like, say hi or anything to them, but don't, like, attack them, and, like, because there's a reason why they're trying to go. They're trying to probably get to a, photo op.
and I've been at things where I've sometimes been like, "Hi," and they're like, "I'm sorry, I have to go somewhere." I'm like, "Great, that's you got to go somewhere." You're like at it, like I think sometimes people forget that like doing cons are like a work thing.
Yeah, that's their money. Like, I was talking to, Dominic one Dominic Keating at the table, while they were just getting set up and waiting, and we were just discussing, this the autographs, the selfies, and all that stuff, and yeah, and he was giving me the history a little bit of, like, when they used to not charge for selfies, and then they realized, you know
They're losing money.
yeah, a lot of money.
I'm like, as long as I'm, especially because like everyone has like prices on their thing, and I'm like, cool. That's like we're being transparent, and I've actually at both creation events I've gone to, I've gotten free pictures with people. Not like it didn't.
Yeah,
One
it
was
just
the Dr.
happened.
Pepper one. And this one where the Hageman brothers recognized me for my videos on the internet talking about Prodigy, which was insane.
That is
Um,
insane.
and then I was like, "Could you sign?" Well, it's also because I wanted them to sign my Murph, but they didn't have a booth or anything. And so everyone that was there just signed it, and they were like, "Let's take a group photo." And I was luckily with my like roommate for the con. One, because I was like, someone else witnessed this interaction that was insane, and two, I was like, "Take my phone." Like,
I saw that happen in Dallas where, like, literally in the middle of the convention hall, the vendor room, Doug Jones was just taking pictures of people.
yeah, I would say because I had gone, I have a picture with Doug Jones from Vegas and some Kristen, my friend Kristen. Doug Jones is like her favorite actor. She's really in like she does like creature makeup and stuff for like cosplay, and so she watched a lot of like the TV show Face Off, which Doug Jones was on a lot. Um, and I had gotten her like a signed photo of Doug. One, she helped me make Murph and some stuff for the ball gown. So as a thank you, I'd gotten her a signed photo of Doug Jones, and then I was letting her. She had paid for a selfie with Doug Jones, and I was letting her have like her moment. And then Doug Jones was like, "Oh, who is this?" to me, and was like, "Oh, this is like my best friend." And he was like, "It's nice to meet you too," and made sure to like step out and like shake my hand to like.
He is
Also,
the
he was
nicest
also
guy.
such a dapper dresser. In the best
Yes.
way. I was like, I'm obsessed with Wicked, and he was like, you're like, had this like cool green suit on that I was
Okay,
like
so you're talking
totally
about in
Wicked vibes.
Dallas.
Yeah, in Dallas.
Yes. Yeah, and he was I in all of the meet and greets. I mean, I liked all the meet and greets, but he that we had in the VIP room, and he was just he's a hand talker,
Yeah,
and
he
and just like,
also.
oh my god, he was
There's
such a nice
an
guy.
amazing picture of him and Kristen. Where his exact words were, "I'm obsessed with the height difference. Kristen is about 5'4", 5'2", 5'3". Short. Doug Jones is tall. And so there's one of them behind her, and the hands are on her head.
But again, he is the nicest guy.
Yeah, so nice.
He's so nice, and actually,
He did
that
not.
did
I
not.
didn't pay him for anything at that con. He did not be nice to me.
I
I did not do anything at that con. He 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 did
I think, like we were saying, in these smaller ones, the regional cons, like we have Dallas, San Francisco, Chicago, and Tennessee, or Nashville, I mean, they're a lot more laid back because they're not as big, um, and so they're just a lot more chill about it, and
And also, you have like them doing like, let's do something weird. Let's do a wine tasting.
yeah, which they did I did that's of all the stuff, the only thing I regret, honestly, was not making it to all the panels. I hardly made it to any because I was at that, again, kind of be my first time. I wanted to get the autographs and all that stuff. And so I focused more on that because again, someone had told me if you don't want to deal with lines, go when their spanners are going. And so I would I would do that. Or because we would have them and when we have the mid and we were gonna have meet and greets with them. So the actors, so sometimes they would be coming in right from a panel or leaving from a photo shoot or photo op to come talk to us for 10 minutes and then have to go to a panel. So I always wanted to make sure I was in that room when they got there so we got the full experience.
I no, and like I get that. Cause I did a couple like photo ops in Vegas because I like it was like my first time at a Trek Con. I did I did three. I did Christina Chong because I was dressed as like that ball gown and I wanted to get a good picture of that. Actually got two pictures from that because she was so I think mostly excited that I made her dog.
Rona?
Yep. And then I saw her at like I saw the dog at
Oh,
the
she
real dog.
brought him. Oh,
Yeah,
or
she
no,
brought
is
him.
it him? Yeah, Rona.
I, I'm
I
not
don't know.
positive.
But
I don't know.
brought the
Mine's a
brought the
stuffed
dog.
dog.
Yeah. That was so funny. I'm sorry that, did you watch the panel and
Yeah,
when
the dog is just like
licking, Melissa Navia? Just would not stop licking her.
yeah. She's like, "Hi, I love
That's
you."
that was so funny.
Oh, I did one at Vegas that was Jonathan Franks and Marina Sirtis, and then I did one with Andrew Robinson.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, and then there was one actually after the Prodigy panel. I like there have been like people were cosplaying. I was Janeway with Murph, so I was like hologram Janeway, and then I took off running for a photo op. And then I ran into people later, and they were like, "Where did you go?" People were like asking. I was like, "Oh, I had a photo op," and they're like, "We turned around, you were gone."
You took off.
But also the best, like one of the best parts, and like we experienced this is like I would just run into people I knew from the internet. Like my first night in Vegas, I actually got into Vegas really early because I've never been to Vegas, and so I did like a day of Vegas stuff.
Yeah.
So hot. I got and like I was being stubborn and didn't want to pay for water and discovered I had to. Apparently water fountains aren't a thing on the Vegas Strip anymore. And so I chugged a water bottle, like, and went into like I gotten tickets to some magic show because that was like the only show that was like not when something Star Trek was going on with the con. And I went in and I was like, clearly, I was like, oh, my stomach is upset. And I went to the bar and I was like, can I have a ginger ale? And the bartender was like, are you okay? And I went, I will be if you give me a ginger ale. Like, I just, I was like, yeah, if people are going into your Vegas bar asking for ginger ale, things are probably, um, but but I wore like a dress I have that's like space themed and not necessarily Star Trek, but I was like, I'm gonna go do normal things and then go. And then it was funny because I would run into people that were clearly there for the con. They'd be like, "Are you? You're wearing something space related?" And I was like, "Yes, I am." But I went to the trivia thing, and I remember coming down the steps of the bar, and I ran into Heather Ray, someone I've known for years, and we both. It was like a scene in Friends. We're like, "Oh my god, you're real!" Like, just like running to hug each other.
Well, I can say that with all of our with our group, I'm like, "Y'all are real. Y'all are real people."
I have an online friend that has this joke that everyone is 5'4" till proven otherwise because we only see each other on computer screens. And then she's like, "Oh, you're taller than me. Proven now."
Ha! That's funny. Oh my god. I was gonna say, so do you have a favorite which what is your favorite Star Trek movie if you have one?
Movie. I think First Contact.
Mm, definitely like that one.
I know it's like now I'm like, why? I'm like, I like it a lot. I it's also like I think First Contact maybe closely followed by Voyage Home.
Yes.
I think I for like I like a little humor mixed in with my drama, and there's more of that in Voyage Home than but there's like First Contact is funnier than I feel like people give it credit for.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially when you have Cochrane, running and yeah, like
Like Marina Sirtis is like playing drunk. Like Troy and especially Crusher are not given a lot to do, but they're given some really really good funny scenes. Like the scene with the EMH is so good. And she's like, I promise I'd never use this thing. Oh, it's the doctor.
I I swore I would never use one of these things. Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
Yeah. It's also probably my most rewatch because I usually rewatch it on First Contact Day. I do have a friend from my other podcast who I think the only Star Trek thing he's ever seen is First Contact twice with me.
Oh gosh.
Because I was just like, I'm going to watch it. And he was like, I want to watch things with friends. And I was like, I could probably explain enough. Didn't remember it one year to the next. But, like, I love Brandon, doesn't have the best memory.
I mean, I'm thinking for my show, I mean, First Contact's up there. Probably, mm, it's hate to say it's The Wrath of Khan.
The Wrath of Khan is a great movie. I think The Wrath of Khan is so good, but I think I maybe went into Wrath of Khan with maybe too high of expectations.
Okay. You're the second person I've heard say that.
And it's an amazing movie, but also I grew up on I grew up on TNG, so I have more of a connection to that cast. And Voyage Home I hadn't actually heard that much about, so I was surprised of how good Voyage Home was. And things I think the thing is, this is true for like many movies in my life, that if I go in not knowing I'm going to love it, like that reaction, like like one of my favorite movies is the Disney movie Enchanted, and I didn't actually think the trailers for that were great. I don't think the trailers actually reflect the movie Enchanted actually is. The yeah, the movie like I think it was 8th grade. It was someone's birthday, and everyone we all liked the movie, and I was just sitting there like, this is the best movie in the world. Like I still like. I was maybe slightly too. It's funny. And as said, I was like, "Oh, am I too old for Barbies?" I was like 12, 13. No, I wasn't. Like I almost was a kid, but like I was just like the mom was like, "What do you want for Christmas?" I wanted those enchanted Barbie dolls. I still have them. They're up in like my closet.
Well, they're good collectors to have.
Well, I played with them. They're not that good of a
Well, they're not
collector
that
item
good.
anymore.
Oh my god. Well, I guess I got one more. It'll be kind of philosophical question in a way, not too bad. Because I was because we were talking about this in our group in Dallas. Is you know, do we think to get to the vision that Gene Roddenberry has is are we going to have that hard reset like they envisioned? Same here.
Like I really don't want to do that. Look, can we just skip that and be like, "Hey, can we not?" Was January like I feel like we're in the middle of like I feel like we might actually be in the middle of a hard reset, but it's just like real life is not as visually dramatic as like life.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it when we were sitting there waiting for one of our meet and greets to happen, and we were just the saying we don't. don't think it'll be the way that we're hoping that it will not be that way, and the woman who was our concierge, she works in IT as well, and and so do I, and so we were just talking, you don't have to do the other stuff. You just literally, you know, freaking knock down our computers and we're done. Just cyber warfare is what it's gonna be. You're done. Take out Google, take out Amazon, that's it, done for a while.
Yeah, especially my job.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. So,
I'd
yeah.
be like I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I know it's like, if the Wi-Fi goes out, I cannot do my job." Like,
Oh, I know. It's so funny, like, yeah, like, that's a work thing, and I could go off into a very long tangent on that, and I am not. I'm going to be good because, yeah, I'm just gonna be a good on that one. But anyway, I do wanna thank you for coming on today
of
and
course.
doing this with me, and, like I said, I think we're now are going to have to do an enterprise watch.
Yeah, I've seen some Enterprise, just for the record. I
I know. You've seen some. We're gonna have to watch we're gonna have to maybe we'll have to do our own thing, and then maybe Father could do something, I don't know. But,
I was gonna say Father's girlfriend was also having issues with Enterprise, and so we were commiserating with that.
oh, we're co oh my god, Taylor. That's
Uh,
and, and I know we gotta go, but I told him if he wanted to bring her when we talk, because she will have a completely different perspective than either of us.
Always so interesting talking to someone, and I get where she comes from. She, like, didn't love Riker because she was like, some of Riker hasn't aged well, but I grew up on him, and it's also, I think it is helpful seeing Jonathan Frakes another thing. You're like, oh, you're genuinely a good guy.
You're you're not Kirk and sleeps with every alien or gets slept with. Um, because, that's what happened on that one First Contact. No, not the movie First Contact, I think it's the episode First Contact with BB Newworth.
You can put some like shade on that BB Newworth alien. If anyone is doing questionable ethics in that situation, it's her.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we when we were doing that review.
Like, oh no.
Yeah, when we were doing that review on the Seventh Rule, that was brought up.
I was like, the last time I watched it, I was just like, oh no, this is
Yeah.
not aged
Yeah,
amazing.
that was brought up a couple of times, so, alright. Well, I'm gonna let you go, and, because I don't know, my dog's probably gonna go crazy again here eventually, who knows what, but I appreciate it, and, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.
All right.